So hello, I'm Ozan, and I'm working as a privacy engineer in TrendyOl group. And I've been working in TrendyOl group for 2 years. And before that, I have experience in consultancy in data privacy and data security. So my role involves both privacy architecture and privacy risk management related functionalities. So my main responsibility was creating the data inventory and then moving it to a tool for higher maturity. And then our purpose from there is to identify potential risks and gaps with regards to legal frameworks and security standards, and define the to-dos, risks, and roadmaps for how to increase our maturity, both in privacy and information security as well. So my understanding of privacy is that initially we would need some data with regards to that process, asset, or whatever we are assessing in terms of privacy, and then first create a record of processing. And then we would apply an assessment based on the requirement. That could be an GDPR-based assessment, or it could be based on the Turkish law, because our main operation is basically in Turkey. Or it could also be an assessment more focused on information security with regards to frameworks like ISO 27001, or I mean, not very related with privacy, but it could also apply other stuff like PCI DSS, where we use in credit card security. And then after we apply that, do that assessment, we also are able to identify what we do in the next steps. So in order to improve, or I mean, in order to be able to provide with privacy and security requirements for a process or an asset, the initial step is actually creating that record on actually gathering that data to be able to assess it. So the first step is basically data gathering, and then you do the assessment. And once you do the assessment, you also define the risks and items for the roadmap. And the third step is making those projects that would increase your maturity, which could be different based on scope, and the effort might change. For instance, if you identify that you're using cookies and you don't have a consent management mechanism, then the to-do for that will be classifying the cookies and then implementing that mechanism, which would be another project. So after we do that assessment, it really depends on the topic, but the scope of work that comes after that might be very different in terms of effort and scope. What we do is we generally look at the standards or frameworks, like the information security standards of 27001, to see what would be the ideal approach. Then we compare it to our as-is state. We do the same with the GDPR. So basically, there are some principles that both in information security and privacy that we need to be compliant with. And then we define those principles, for instance, for data privacy purpose limitation. And then we check what the standard says about purpose limitation. For instance, for purpose limitation, it defines that the data should only be used for the defined purpose and should not be used for other purposes. Then we look at the process and we check if there's a control that would make us compliant with this principle. And if not, then there's a gap, and we need to find a control that would give us that visibility and capability to say that we are compliant with the purpose limitation principle. So we apply that to different principles in GDPR and both information security, and that's how we define the risks, actually, based on how good and how close we are to the standard approach advised by those frameworks. And then once we do that, we define a gap between those. And based on the difference between the standard and our as-is process, the risk obviously is larger. The impact of risk is higher for us. When I first started in 2016, the law was very new in Turkey, and it was very challenging for people to write their processes in a data inventory. That was really surprising at that time, and that problem is still here in 2023 already. So basically, the challenges around getting people to convince that we need to do this, whereas the real work needs to be done is much less in effort. I mean, it's like, so basically incentive is the real challenge and getting people involved, I would say. It should be very technically understandable and make sense to them as much as it can. So that kind of approach is much more relevant compared to just giving them and sending an assessment and asking about their process. You provide that and you tell them about the value that you will create with that, give them the visibility. And also, I think that should be that's like the ideal approach for engaging those teams. Cookies is an example for this. The authority shared the guidance on how the cookies should be like, and it's clear, straightforward, and very, very, very usable. I mean, implementable. Not much technical challenges. It's just about like the banners, color, and where should be just about the text. But again, I mean, we know that best approach. We understand it, but we don't have the will to do it like that because that's going to lower the numbers that are important. So that going with the best practice is a bit hard. What I try to do is I try to give the relevant process owner or whoever I'm engaging with the relevant clause in the law or in GDPR on why this is risky and what's the ideal way for doing this. For instance, implementing a control to maintain a principle to make it more visible and understandable for them. And the challenge there is like, because they're not very good with terminology or don't know the details, they are not able to give feedback from their side because they don't really understand the essentials of that principle and what it means. So only I'm the one understanding it. So they're not able to comment on it. So basically, ideally, we would both be able to comment on it. And I would try to guide that process owner or asset owners on what it should be like. Whereas in this case, I mean, it's not doable in that sense because this reason. So what I would suggest is just try to reference the GDPR and KVKK directly when giving the advice on this. And then that's the way I would go and say. So I expect like I expect the world to focus on this problem even more than now, because I see the sanctions are going very high for Google and other companies. It's going around above like $1 billion now, which is the potential impact is very high. So I mean, I'm not sure like if this will happen, but I really expect a lot of tools that would be able to support with the privacy requirements, because that side there's potential there where both for visibility and control. I mean, even visibility first, because control is a bit more next stage, but for even visibility tools to come up. And a lot of more sanctions for Google and Amazon and other companies as well, probably, because as far as I see from the current news in America and the Congress, the companies like Twitter or Google are unable to maintain an access control or maintain a data retention policy, or even know where their data is or who's accessing that. I mean, if you don't know where your data is, don't know who's accessing it, and then it goes from there to, you can't delete it, you can't do any policies, whatever. So that visibility part needs to improve a lot. So I'm expecting it to somehow increase, but that requires a lot of workforce now and a lot of dedication. So we will see. I mean, I expect this to be the hot topic again. I mean, for this year, because privacy, as my perception is, like some of the core requirements that you need to, supply with your customers or your data subjects with, because otherwise the impact on that personal level is like you lose trust completely. So it's exciting that we have a day like this. I wish it would be celebrated more. I mean, we tried celebrating it last year with our company, and we had this idea of sending people quizzes, like 10 questions, really easy. Is this personal data? How long can you store personal data for? You got the trap question for everyone, and people click it, whatever. And then we had the idea of sending everyone who did great on the quiz a privacy perfume. So yeah, I mean, I really want to do that. It's a good day for like a lot of privacy activists like Tor browser and others, Privado, obviously, Proton. So it's great that we have a day like that because it's very relevant that I mean, it's relevant for the whole community that everyone protects their data. So yeah, I mean, it's a good chance for awareness, and I don't know, we should make. I think we should make it more fun to